Captain Jack here. The Nintendo 64 only had about 300 or so games, but that might not be the case in the near future. A small but growing homebrew scene has popped up in the last couple of years, so here are 5 Nintendo 64 homebrew games that are worth looking at. There's nothing really like the Swoop 64. At first I thought it was a balloon grabbing simulator, but it's actually a grabbing anything simulator. The more you get, the bigger the items you can grab. I thought this would maybe extend to the cats and pop cans lying around, but no, you can just straight up grab fence posts and people. Imagine a crow coming down and just grabbing a kid playing soccer. That's the world these people live in. Whoa, that's gotta be one of those little Japanese cars or something, like a Suzuki Jimmy. Oh, that's a real thing. Okay. There's 2 game modes, practice and time. It's a pretty simple arcade game where you try to get your nest as high as you can before the time runs out. And yeah, I'm not so great at it. Check this one out, it's pretty comical. Power Struggle immediately assaults you with an eye-bleeding title screen, but don't judge a book by its cover. It's actually got a lot more going on than it seems. You start off as Mendy, who can hit things with a wrench at very close range. Honestly, he's pretty terrible. But as soon as you take the head off another robot, you can take them over and gain their abilities. And there's a surprising amount of these you can control. There's Harvey, who's really good at enemies that can go the same speed as him, Herbie, who is fast but hard to attack with, and Gassy, who looks good on paper, but he's not, trust me. Gassy, more like Assy. By far the best part about this mechanic is the amount of healing you get every time you switch robots. So even if you get one you want, Zappy, trust me, it's Zappy, that's the one you want, you'll still need to switch around pretty frequently to get your health back. This is not an easy game. If you're attacking an enemy as the same type as you, you're basically going to trade with them and do just as much damage to them as they do to you. The length of this game is pretty decent, all things considered. It's a gauntlet of enemies swarming after you and you strategically picking the right machine for the job. This one surprised me. It's actually pretty engaging. Megatextures Tech Demo isn't a game, but I didn't need to tell you that, the title already tells you that. This showcases Megatextures on the Nintendo 64. Well, what is a megatexture? You'll notice that if you walk up to any of these paintings, or really anything in this room, that it actually has really high resolution textures on it. They can be up to 1024 by 1024, which is basically a standard HD texture, all of this running on native N64 hardware. A scene like this should be impossible on the hardware. Maybe 2 or 3 of these HD textures could be displayed at one time, but not an entire scene of them. How does this work? Well, everything is mip-mapped, meaning there are several stand-in lower resolution textures for objects as you get farther away. You can see things get blurrier as I walk away from them. This allows for a detailed high-resolution environment to exist on such ancient hardware. It's actually a very efficient system that only shows you the detail you would need to see. And obviously this looks better when you're playing on a lower resolution, like how the actual hardware would play it. Now, it has its flaws. If you swivel the camera a little bit too fast, things can be blurry for about a second, but it works pretty well. I would love to see this in a bigger project. Maybe a slower first-person puzzle game that really needs the detail provided here. Wizards of the Board is chess with a twist, which is always fun, taking something familiar and adding a spin to it. Here you'll run around and try to get the chess pieces to the green tiles to pass the level. This is pretty easy at first, but eventually there'll be enemies you'll have to take out while staying safe, all while abiding the rules of chess. Meaning a knight piece is pretty hard to kill enemies with. This game is very much a vertical slice. It has just a little bit of everything. A good 20 or so levels, cutscenes between almost every level, and even an intro sequence with voice acting.
If one prevails over the trial, if one succeeds at their task, they shall be known as a wizard of the board.
Pretty cool, huh? The last few puzzles can be tricky, and it's always hard to decide if you're going to look at the 3D view or the 2D flat tile view. They both have their advantages. Telocation Gemini is a great puzzle platformer, and it's by far the best looking game on this list stylistically. It stars this cute little astronaut man, and it's all pretty simple starting out, jumping here and there, pressing switches, but eventually you'll get a platform robot, and you'll have to get both of these to the end of each level. There's 3 gems per stage you can collect that serve as a sort of collectible, but just getting through these levels by themselves is honestly hard enough. You'll have to know which robot to use at the right time, and sometimes you'll use both together. Some switches can only be pressed by the big guy, sometimes you'll have to take your astronaut guy out alone and do something so the platform bot can walk through. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses. The polish here is absolutely outstanding, with simple yet solid textures and great sound design. There's even different footstep sounds depending on what you're walking on, although the best sound here is when the astronaut falls off a cliff. It sounds like a hound dog stepping on a Lego. Telocation Gemini, hope I'm saying that right, was developed by Ultra Rare. And usually for the last game on the list, I would say check this one out before all the others. But we don't want to give Ultra Rare too much attention. We don't want them hollowed out by Microsoft too.